The first time my neighbor knocked on my door, it was raining hard enough to sound like the world was breaking apart, and something in her eyes told me that her life already had. I did not know her name yet, did not know her story, but I knew that whatever she was about to ask would change both of us in ways neither of us were prepared for. Before the story truly begins, let me pause for a heartbeat and speak directly to you watching this. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen between ordinary people, please take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel The Kindness Chronicles. Your support keeps stories like this alive. I had lived in apartment 3B for nearly 5 years, long enough to know the building's every groan and whisper. The elevator stalled between floors more often than it worked, the hallway lights flickered like they were unsure they wanted to exist, and the walls were thin enough that I knew when my neighbors laughed, cried, or fought with ghosts they never named. I was the kind of man who learned to stay invisible. I worked late, came home tired, and filled my evenings with reheated food and the low hum of television shows I barely watched. I had once believed in big things like forever and destiny, but life had sanded those ideas down into something smaller and quieter. I believed in surviving, in keeping pain at arm's length, and in not needing anyone too much. She moved into 3A in early spring. I noticed the boxes first, stacked like uneven promises outside her door. Then I noticed the sound of soft music through the wall at night, the kind of music that felt sad even when it tried to be hopeful. I noticed how she always smiled politely in the hallway but never lingered, like someone afraid of staying too long anywhere. Still, she was just a neighbor, and neighbors were meant to be acknowledged and then forgotten. That illusion shattered the night she knocked on my door. Her hair was damp from the rain, her jacket too thin for the cold, and her hands trembled as if they were holding something fragile inside her chest. She asked if she could come in, and something in her voice made it impossible to say no. Once inside, she stood awkwardly near the door, eyes darting around my small apartment like she was memorizing an escape route. Then she said it, quickly, like ripping off a bandage. She told me she needed me to pretend to be her boyfriend. The words hung between us, heavy and absurd. I remember laughing at first, not because it was funny, but because it was easier than admitting how deeply serious she looked. She explained that her family was coming to visit, that they were the kind of people who measured worth in milestones like marriage and stability. She said she had lied to them, told them she was happy, settled, loved. Now they wanted to see proof. She said she could not bear the disappointment in their eyes, not again. I should have said no. Every sensible part of me knew that pretending to be something I was not would only lead to trouble. But there was a crack in her composure, a quiet desperation that mirrored something broken in me. So I told her I would help, but the words that came out of my mouth surprised even me. I said that if we were going to do this, we would need more than one kiss. I said it half joking, half testing, expecting her to recoil. She did not. She laughed softly, a sound that felt like relief breaking through fear, and nodded. In that moment, a simple lie became a complicated truth waiting to be born that we spent the next few days preparing like actors rehearsing for a play neither of us had auditioned for. We learned each other's routines, invented shared memories, and practiced standing close enough that it felt natural. The first time we touched, just a hand brushing another, electricity shot through me. Sharp and unexpected. It had been a long time since touch meant anything other than habit. With her, it felt like standing at the edge of something dangerous and beautiful. Her family arrived on a bright Saturday morning, all noise and opinions and unspoken expectations. I played my role, smiling, helping with bags, listening to stories I had heard only in fragments through her careful explanations. I saw how she relaxed when I stood beside her, how her shoulders dropped when I slipped an arm around her waist. The lie wrapped around us, warm and convincing. For the first time in a long while, I felt useful in a way that mattered. But pretending has a way of blurring lines. We cooked together, argued playfully about which movie to watch, shared late-night conversations after her family went to sleep. I learned about her past, about a love that had ended badly and left her afraid of trusting her own heart. She learned about mine, about a relationship that had taught me how quickly promises could rot. Somewhere between shared coffee mugs and whispered laughter, the act began to feel less like pretending and more like discovering something real. The challenge was not just keeping up appearances. The challenge was what happened when the door closed and it was just the two of us, standing in the quiet aftermath of a day spent lying beautifully. I struggled with wanting her to be mine for real and fearing that she only wanted the version of me that fit her story. She struggled with guilt, with the fear that leaning into this feeling would cost her more than loneliness ever had. When her family finally left, the apartment felt emptier than it had before they arrived. The silence was thick, full of things neither of us knew how to say. We stood in the hallway, no longer performers, just two people facing the truth that something had changed. She thanked me, her voice unsteady, and said we should probably go back to being neighbors. That was the moment I realized how much I had let myself hope. The idea of losing her, of returning to a life where she was just a polite smile in the hallway, felt unbearable. Yet I nodded, because wanting something did not mean it was safe to reach for it. The weeks that followed were harder than I expected. We avoided each other at first, then settled into a strange new normal filled with half-conversations and stolen glances. Every laugh from her apartment felt like a reminder of what I was missing. Every night, I replayed the moments we had shared, wondering which parts were real and which were just part of the act. Change came quietly, the way it often does. One evening, there was another knock on my door. This time, she was not drenched in rain, but her eyes were wet with unshed tears. She told me she had tried dating again, tried to move on, and realized that what we had felt different because it was honest in its vulnerability, even if it began as a lie. She said she was tired of running from happiness just because it scared her. I listened, heart pounding, afraid to interrupt the fragile courage it had taken for her to come to me. When she finished, the space between us felt charged, full of possibility. I told her I was scared too, that I did not know how to promise forever, but I knew how to show up, how to try, how to choose someone every day even when it was hard. What followed was not a dramatic kiss or a perfect ending. It was slower, deeper. We learned how to build something real from the rubble of our pasts. We argued, apologized, and chose each other again and again. The love that grew between us was not flashy, but it was strong, rooted in understanding and patience. Years later, I sometimes think about that first knock on the door and how close I came to saying no. I think about how easily kindness can open doors we never knew existed. Loving her taught me that second chances are not about erasing the past, but about believing it does not get. The final word. If this story has stirred something in you, if it reminded you of love found in unexpected places or courage discovered in quiet moments, please take a second to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Your engagement tells us these stories matter. And before this story ends, I have one special request. If it touched your heart, please comment the line, "Kindness changes everything," below. Let it be a small promise we make to each other, to believe that even the simplest acts of compassion can rewrite a life.